Hello and welcome to the Midweek Fix with me, Jamie Home, after England have beaten Denmark after extra time to reach the European Championship final. Didn't think I'd be saying that anytime soon. Joining me tonight, I'm delighted to say, to give their reaction to the big game, as well as some storylines that are doing the rounds in terms of transfers in the world of Liverpool. We have Gav. Phil Egan is back with us, and making his Trippers debut is UEFA Pro License coach and League of Ireland legend, Dave Rogers. Dave, great to have you with us, mate. How are you?
Jamie, great to be here. Gav, Phil, thanks for having me, boys. Absolute pleasure.
Good to have you with us, mate. Now, I don't really know where to start because I'm a couple of beers deep at this stage. I'm all over the place. I'm an emotional wreck. I'll come to you first, Phil, to be the level-headed one of the three of us, or the four of us, I should say. What's your reaction to the game? Was it a deserved win for England, do you think, in the end?
Yeah, look, I think England were the better team. Denmark were hanging on. You could feel that Denmark wanted to get the game to penalties. But look, it's going to be dominated. The reaction from the game is going to be dominated by the penalty decision. And I don't know. I mean, I personally didn't think it was a penalty. I think there's the tiniest bit of contact. Actually, looking at the last minute of extra time, Sterling had that chance at the end. There was more contact there off the defender when he went through and got his corner and off the save off Schmeichel than there was for the penalty. But we've seen this before with Sterling, where he doesn't need an invitation to go to ground. And I think the frustration from a lot of people watching it is that we have VAR. Obviously, the decision is being reviewed. Why not say to the ref, you know what, I'm not 100% on this. Why don't you go over to your monitor and have a look just to see, are you 100% sure that this is a penalty? And do you know what? If he comes back and says, I've watched it again, I'm going to stick with my on-field decision, then you might have a bit more of an understanding. But the fact that he's just taken it from the VAR review and awarded a penalty, yeah, you'd be absolutely sick if you were one of the Danish players or the supporters.
You have to tell everybody you turned into Mystic Meg a little bit. You text me halfway. I think it was just as we went into extra time or at the end of the 90.
Well, you had said to me, "Look, we'll go when extra time is over. We'll start recording." And I said, "I think England are going to win this in extra time with a penalty." I just felt that someone like Vestergaard was just the accident waiting to happen. Now, it wasn't him that gave the penalty away, but he just looked like an accident waiting to happen all evening. He's not comfortable playing in a back three when he's on the left-hand side because he gets drawn out into areas that he's not comfortable in. And he was actually asleep for the equaliser. He was the one playing on Saka for the goal. So, yeah, look, England have a few players like that don't need much to be encouraged to go down, whether it's Sterling, Harry Kane, or Jack Grealish. And you know, I'm sure we'll see people say it's clever. There's contact there. You do what you can to win. But yeah, it's England. Look, I think it makes for a better final. Everything Denmark have been through, it's a killer the way it's ended for them. But England fully deserved the win, I felt anyway.
Gav, I'm going to be controversial here and start early. Why is it when English players dive, it's smart play? And why is it when foreign players dive, it's diving? What's the difference? Because there was certainly a lot going on, whether it was through Kane or Sterling. There was some dubious decisions that were thrown England's way.
Yeah, look, it's one of those, isn't it? And then, but when I was watching it, I was thinking, you know, I've seen Salah get penalties for very little contact, and I'm a Liverpool fan. You know, it's how it's interpreted, and you know it can be the smallest bit, but there's how much does it put them off? You know, like I don't want to go back to it, but I will. The Brighton penalty.
Don't get me started
on and Danny Welbeck, and I just think it's a lack of common sense. I genuinely do. Like people are saying there in the chat, there's 2 balls on the pitch for a start, right? There's 2 balls on the football pitch. The game should be stopped. Now, listen, before people tell me, oh, it's sour grapes, it's an Irishman going mad over England being in the final, I couldn't care less who's in the final of this competition. I genuinely couldn't. You know, the two best teams, I think, probably got to the final. Going through the games that you look at, England have been very robust defensively, conceded for the first time tonight, I think. Is that right?
Yeah.
You know, they've taken their chances when they got them, particularly against Germany. And you've Italy, who have been, I think, being the best team in the tournament by a distance. So I don't really care who's in the final, but just looking at it, you know, just observing it tonight, there's contact, but how much does it interfere with him? How much does it stop him doing from what he wants to do? Do you know the sort of way? And it goes to VAR, and somebody else said in the chat there, no on-field decision has been overturned in this tournament. That could be a policy. You know how policies start very, very quickly over VAR and referees' decisions, and it's just a lack of common sense. You know, have you seen anyone tell me it's a penalty? Now, I don't care if it's a penalty or not, but have you seen anybody out there say, "Oh, that's a penalty"? That's a penalty. Like Phil says, there's more contact on Sterling towards at the end when he gets the corner or whatever. Why isn't that a penalty? And then you're into the whole realm of consistency. You know, if you're given that one on 105 minutes, you should be given the other one on 118 minutes or 19 minutes or whatever it might be. So it's how you observe it. But for me, it wasn't a penalty, and I think England got out of jail a little bit. They were a much better team, don't get me wrong, but they should have seen Denmark were waning probably after 65, 70 minutes. And them subs, likes of Henderson or Grealish or whoever you want, Foden, whoever he wanted to bring on, should have been brought on a lot earlier. I think England would have won it. I think they would have won it comfortably in the 90 if they'd have made changes earlier.
Dave, when you look at the game, penalty aside, on the balance of play, England, worthy winners, better side for you?
Yeah, 100%, Jamie. They were definitely the better side overall. But going on what Gav just said as well, I think the substitutions had a lot to be desired for. If it would have been me, I'd have had Henderson on at half time, along with Grealish, and then maybe brought Foden on, you know, with about 20 minutes to go, which he did. But again, a very, very soft penalty. But you look at Sterling, and he did what he does well. I think he was, for me, probably England's best player tonight. I think with his pace and his energy, he's a threat, especially getting in behind, and the Mark was set up with that back five. And in the first half it was more of a mid block. As the second half went on, they dropped deeper and deeper and became a real low block. Yeah, very obvious penalty. Very lucky to get the award of the penalty, but overall, definitely they were the better team. I think they had 21 shots, 21 attempts, and on target. For Denmark, I think Denmark had 4. But yeah, look, they're in the final. I actually agree with Gav. For me, Italy have been the outstanding team, not just on the field, but off the field. Leadership, desire, hunger, and the way they've conducted themselves, I think, have been phenomenal. I don't agree with. I actually don't believe England are the best. As in, I think there's one or two. I think Germany, if they've got their act together a little bit quicker. Belgium, they've got shown us what good teams they are. But I think this England, there's a lot they need to sort decide on his starting 11 and 2 holding midfielders with Rice and with Phillips. I don't think it worked in the first half. They were very ball backwards inside. But look, they're in the final. They've I don't get this. It's coming home. It came home in '96, but that was a different competition. But look, we're going to a good game, and I believe Italy are the best team. I believe Italy will go on and win it, if I'm being honest.
Phil, there's something that I have a battle with, and I think I said this on last week's show. Gareth Southgate deserves a lot of credit for what he's done with this England team, particularly lifting a lot of the kind of the doom and gloom around the England squad. He's built a togetherness that I don't think has been visible in the England camp. Certainly, as my time as a football fan, there's always been divisions between certain players from different clubs. There is something still that niggles me a little bit, and Dave touched on it there around the negativity, or I suppose setting up to not get beat. And when you look at the substitutions today, I thought the subs changed the game for England. And one thing that was very obvious for me is they never quite got a hold of the game in central midfield. Now, I think Phillips and Rice have done a solid job. But if you're going to come up against a strong Italian side, surely you're going to look to dominate the central area of midfield. And it'd be a worry for England going in with Rice and Phillips.
Big time, yeah. Italy's midfield is quality, obviously. I mean, if Locatelli's not getting in anymore because Verratti's back, yeah, he's just very cautious. I can see why Southgate would frustrate you because you have all this attacking talent on the bench. Now, he could argue that keep things tight and then win the game in the last 20 minutes. I actually thought his substitutions, it's almost like he's got predetermined substitutes where he's going to bring on Grealish because he knows that's going to raise the roof in Wembley when they see him coming on. So he takes Saka off, then he puts Sterling over on the right. I actually thought Sterling went out of the game on the right-hand side at the end of the 90 minutes. But then as Denmark dropped a bit deeper and they obviously went down to 10 men, they ran out of substitutions. Sterling got more space in extra time on the right-hand side. Grealish was obviously taken off. I presume he must have got a knock when Trippier replaced him. But again, you wouldn't know that's a case of Southgate trying to shut up shop. It's all well and good. If this wins them the tournament, people will, like Gareth Southgate, there'll be a statue made of Gareth Southgate to go with all the players as well. But if they use this approach and they get beaten comfortably by Italy, then there will be people thinking, there'll be regret there where you look at all the talent. And looking at the two benches before the game, you always felt England would have the stronger hand to pick from going into the latter stages of the second half, or if there was extra time. And that's the way it played out. I thought England started the game well, but I think if you're Roberto Mancini and you're looking at that game tonight, you're thinking we need to press high for the first 20 minutes because Jordan Pickford is... I watched the coverage on RTE before the game and Didi Hamann was just basically... He summed it up perfectly. Just accident waiting to happen. And that one where he rolled it out and gave the ball away, it fed into the rest of the players and they just went to bits for the next 15 minutes. And then obviously Denmark scored. And yeah, I think Pickford certainly... He's been getting a lot of praise for keeping clean sheets, but that doubt never goes away.
Yeah, he nearly went full Karius. I was looking at this. I was looking at the game, thinking, "Hold on, I can't live through this again." Gav, when you look at that England side, there's one thing that stood out to me, and I've been massively full of praise for Jack Grealish. One of the things that stands out for me is the handling of Grealish tonight because he's a maverick, he's a creator. He's the type of player that gets people off their seat. You could see the stadium visibly, people were standing up, they were singing his name. There was a buzz as soon as he came on the pitch. And for me, when he used the ball, I thought he used it well. He drove at people, he won fouls. He had a different dynamism to what England had before his arrival. Surely that will do him no favours in terms of confidence. Southgate subbing him back off after he's come on. I understand that, England want to see out a game, but England at that time were the better side and Grealish was their best ball carrier. Surely the way home is for England to keep the ball as opposed to saying, well, actually, do you know what? We'll just invite extra pressure on and we'll bring on an extra defender. Oh, you're on mute, Gav.
Sorry. Yeah, I was surprised he done that because, like you said, Grealish is very, very good at protecting the ball. He rarely loses it. And he carries it well, and he does draw fouls. And like Phil said there at the start, they have got players in their team that can go down easily. I think in a little bit of defense of Grealish, he just nicks the ball away from it, and he seems to get caught late loads and loads and loads of times, particularly in the Premier League. But he's no stranger to doing it, so that's in his game. But Southgate's not going to change, and I don't think Southgate cares if Grealish has to come off. And I'm sure he explained it to Jack Grealish as to what was his thinking behind it to ensure a final place against Italy on Sunday. But like the style of football he's playing, like Phil said there, like if he plays that and he gets easily beaten by Italy, would people say, "Oh, they regret because of what they're doing?" He hasn't moved away from it. He's made one change or two changes tops to his side, and I think some of them might have been enforced because of COVID with Mount and well, not Chilwell, but Mount in particular. He's not going to change what he's doing because Gareth Southgate is not an adventurous manager. I don't think he's a particularly brave manager. In fairness, they go 1-0 down today. Vestergaard is all over the shop and they get an equaliser through an own goal. Not that I'd love to, but I'd like to see that go on, say, into 55, 60 minutes and to see how brave he would have got, because I don't think he's a brave manager. If he's brave, he gets Sancho on the pitch earlier. Or he probably starts Sancho ahead of Saka, for me. If he gets Grealish in that team somehow. You know what I mean? Now, people would say to you, well, hold on, you're overloading. Well, you're not. You're sitting there with Rice and Phillips that don't really have an interest in going forward. And their fullbacks, are good defenders. So it's not like you're overloading the side. I don't think he's a massively brave manager. I think when it comes to Sunday, the fourth goal will be huge. Fourth goal, 1-0 down to Italy. They won't be handing you out own goals easy. They won't be handing you chances easy. So it's one of those. I get where Phil's coming from with, if we play that way, or if they play that way, and they get.
Did you just say we?
Yeah, well, I'm thinking it from a Gareth Southgate sort of perspective.
Okay.
Don't do that, for fuck's sake. But no, what I'm saying is Gareth Southgate's thinking, if we play like this, and I stick to me the way I've been doing it, it's served me well so far. If I change and I get beaten, I get hounded. You know what I mean? He's in a no-win situation if he loses. I don't think he's going to get that well done and hard luck. The English media aren't like that. The English media will just pick. You stayed what you were at. You didn't change that, and you're going to be slaughtered for it. So he's in a rocking a hard place for Gareth Southgate. If come Sunday night, he's not European champion with England, because that's just the way the media is. But it'll be interesting to see what he does with Grealish. I think he should be in the side, because especially when Denmark are sitting back that deep. For me, Saka's good, Sterling is good. Don't get me wrong, but Grealish will open you up like that. And especially when you have Kane, that'll just sniff out chances everywhere. I thought Grealish, the minute I seen Denmark drop back on, I thought it was about 60, 65, when I thought these are going here. Grealish on that. Yeah, I would have had Grealish on the pitch straight away and just said, listen, you roam around, we've enough cover behind you. Because he'll just pick a ball out in an instant and you'll be 2-1 up, and then you can sit if you want. But we'll have to wait and see. It was a strange one, but that's just Gareth Southgate. There's nothing you can do about it.
Dave, from a coaching perspective, it always interests me. When you're looking at international football, club level, it's a lot easier to kind of imprint your ideas on players, because you obviously have a lot more time on the training pitch, to work on different things. How difficult is it for an international manager to have sides so well drilled? And I use the example of Italy, who for me, shape-wise, have looked the best side in the tournament, but also England. Apart from a set piece tonight, they haven't conceded goals. They've looked pretty solid. How difficult, or I suppose, how much praise do the coaches deserve, given their limited time on the training field with the players?
Yeah, and listen, when you're with an international group, sometimes when you go to a camp game, you don't get as much time or preparation, but I think during this campaign, there's been a lot more time to get the players gelled together. The games have come thick and fast, so in between that, it'll probably be a lot of rest and recuperation and, getting ready for the next game. But these are world players, system or formation that, Southgate wants to go with. The players should be well drilled and well educated enough that they know what their role and responsibility is. But a little bit on what Gav touched on as well, that, for me, it was a perfect opportunity, I feel, to get Grealish in the team, to get Foden on a little bit earlier. And I definitely think Henderson should have started. And you can see as soon as he comes on the field, he's always scanning over his shoulder. He's trying to play on the front foot. He's trying to go forward. And I just felt in the first half between Rice and Phillips, and look, I'm not knocking the players, but I think it was a little bit negativity, looking to go backwards and being caught flat-footed and wrong side, playing side to side, when, even if you look at Berg, every time, to be fair to him, he's trying to play forward. And I thought he was exceptional for Denmark tonight. I thought he was really, his energy, and he was serious. But again, to being a perfect opportunity for Gareth Southgate to just try one or two little things, go with the 4-3-3, like Gav mentioned, get Sancho on the pitch and give him a little bit of confidence, and get Denmark, because rightly with 25 minutes to go, they were just dropping deeper and deeper. And I thought we could have got at them a little bit more. But look, you made a really good point, that sort of calmness for the squad. He's kept them all level-headed. And you're right that the press will, one way or another, they're always looking here, there and everywhere. But, he's managed to keep them calm, good backroom staff around them. And you know, like it or not, they're in the final and they've got a chance now to go and win a big competition.
Phil, do you think it's a case with the Henderson situation? Because it was a difficult one. You know, a lot of stuff has come out in the media this week that he was pretty much touch and go for the tournament. You know, and he kind of fast tracked himself. You know, no days off since the injury. That the injury happened was the news coming out this week. Do you think, looking at it, because from an ability perspective and an experience perspective, Jordan Henderson starts in that England team every day of the week. But do you think it's one of those where he said to Southgate, and they've had to have an honest conversation as a senior pro to a manager, and said, look, there's a good chance that you're not going to be fit when we start this tournament. It might mean, if the lads do well, that you're going to have a bit of a bit part to play. Henderson's attitude and application has been fantastic. Supposedly he's been great around the camp, and he's now starting to make impacts on the pitch as well with his goal against Ukraine. But just his composure, and as Dave said, forward thinking, looking to play forward. It was good to see tonight that he was making long busting runs through the lines to try and pull people out of position, which England had missed without him on the pitch.
Yeah, I think if Henderson was fit going into the tournament, he starts, and probably Rice, but obviously Rice and Phillips got the nod at the start, and Southgate feels he can't leave either of them out, and he has them as protectors. I think a lot of people are watching Rice in this tournament and probably not too impressed with him because he's been quite limited in what he's done, but I think he's a better player than he's shown at the tournament in terms of he's doing what he's been asked to do. I've seen him play for West Ham where he's far more expansive with the ball and will try and get forward, but he's basically playing on a leash where he's told don't go out of position. And there was that little bit of play in the first half of tonight's game where it was the second half, and he went into his own half and he cleaned up, and he got the applause from the crowd, and that's what he's there to do. But Henderson is a great option to have because obviously when he comes on, he's got the experience, but he injects tempo into the game. And, it's a strange one where he got his goal against Ukraine the other day. When you get that sniff of a goal and you break your duck, maybe there's another goal in him. I thought we would have seen more of Jude Bellingham in this tournament. He's an exceptional player. He was good in the warm-up games. But Rice and Phillips are Southgate's men for this tournament, and he ain't changed them. I'd be very surprised if he changes his starting 11 for the final. The only position up for grabs maybe is one of the wide players, whether it's Sterling. So do you go with Sterling on the left if Emerson starts for Italy, because he will leave space down that side because he likes to get forward? I thought Di Lorenzo's an exceptional defender, so he might try and match Grealish up with him. But I think Southgate is just going to go with the same approach. And look, if he wins, he's seen as a genius. If he doesn't, I think the fact that he's got to the final now, regardless of what happens, there's not going to be any calls for him to go after the tournament, because the way they're set up, the only way they can lose on Sunday is by the odd goal. That's just the way they play. And but I think as I said earlier, I think it's going to make for a better final, the fact that it's Italy and England.
Gav, you called them we before, so I think I know the answer to this question. Is this because I'll be honest, I have a weird battle with supporting England. I obviously want England to win, but for lots of reasons that I won't go into today, that's just I can't warm to lots of elements of the England team. But this, I have to say, is the most likable England squad I've known in my lifetime. There just seems a real good group of professionals there. Is that something that kind of transmits outside of the English? Can you look at this squad and say, actually, yeah, I can see where Jay's coming from there?
I don't know about likable, but there's definitely a togetherness. I don't know how you would determine Jordan Pickford as likable. Harry Kane does me fucking head in. I wouldn't be mad on Sterling. There's a couple of them there that I wouldn't be mad on, but there is definitely a togetherness with them. And I think that's going back to Henderson. I think that's why he's there. I don't think Henderson's anywhere fit enough to play a tournament like this over the space of 4 weeks and possibly 6 games to win it? 7 games to win it. I don't think he's anywhere close, to be honest with you. I think, I think he gets in the squad because, like Phil said, he's probably told he's probably told Southgate, listen, I can put in 30 minutes, I can put in 35 minutes, and in tournament football, you know, you've seen how many games have gone to extra time. Overall, when you look at Henderson outside of it, and it's the same with Liverpool, he's everywhere off the pitch with Liverpool. He does everything, you know, and he played a massive role with the captains when this COVID stuff kicked in. He's a huge character, you know, whether you like him or don't like him as a footballer or what he does on the pitch. He's a huge character. And even when you see the clips of England and, you know, behind the scenes, I suppose, Henderson's right there, bang in the middle, and he's always in good form, and he's a pep in the step, and he's you know, he's keeping lads upbeat. You know, it's probably not hard because they're in the final, but you can see what he means to that squad. You know, I believe Henderson's the captain of that squad, in all but name, because everything he does, the way he carries himself, the way people talk about him, I think he's huge for them. And even on the sideline, I think he's huge for them. And even for players like Phillips or Rice, they're young players. They're not ballers. You know, Phillips is 4 seasons in the Premier League. Rice is there a couple of years now, and he's a real mainstay at West Ham, and will probably get a move to a bigger club at some stage. But even for those, or you know, even the likes of Jadon Sancho, Saka, even Grealish. You know, Grealish is not an established international footballer, but when they all look to Jordan Henderson, they all look to him. They probably look for advice, the way he carries himself. He's absolutely huge. But when it comes back to the togetherness, I think he's a huge part of it. And not only that, I think the togetherness is there because I've seen England go into so many tournaments and there's so much debate over what way will we play, how many attackers will we play, how many will we win by, who will score the goals. It hasn't come out of England like that this time. It's been, they just approach every game, and there's not a lot of talk from the camp as to what they're going to do. They've gone about their business very, very quietly. And I think it's suited this squad because they haven't been dragged into, you know, remember there used to be the wives and girlfriends, and there was all sorts going on, and it always seemed to dominate the English squad, a bit like the Holland, just punching the head off each other at most tournaments, the Dutch. Whereas this one for England, they've been really, I suppose, focused on what they're doing. And in fairness, you have to probably give credit to Southgate for that, because he's obviously drawn up a plan and said, this is our plan, we're going to stick to it. And if we fail, it's my fault. And if we don't, you get all the plaudits. So I think it's worked out well there.
Dave, just to finish off on the Henderson piece, from your side in the dressing rooms that you've been in over the years, whether a player or a coach, just how important are the senior pros, you know, the likes of the Harry Kanes, the likes of the Jordan Hendersons, particularly, you know, when you get to, you know, the final moments of games, or, you know, the final stages of big tournaments, just how big are those players in the dressing room?
Jay, massive, because as a manager and a coach, when you've got a person of Jordan Henderson's professionalism, caliber, you know, humbleness. People, when they see him on the field, they need to see what he's like off the field as well. And he's just a really good, down-to-earth guy, you know. And I think that rubs off on the younger players. I know it definitely rubs off on the players over the years. I think that just the way he conducts himself, you know, as a human being, you know, that sets him apart from an awful lot of people. To have the young players in the squad that they've got, he's more or less doing the manager's job at times, because players will go to Jordan Henderson for advice. They'll go to him not just for advice on you know, off-field positions, but on the field. That's when Gareth just step back and go, I have a leader here who can do a lot of my work for me. I've had it myself as a player, Jay, where, you know, you're interested and you've got big influences that, you know, you can have a little chat with. And I think he's been massive. Personally, for me, I'd start him. I think if you're good enough to be on the bench, then you're good enough to play beginning. And I feel as though he a real different energy tonight when he came onto the pitch. And like we said, he plays on the front foot. He wants to get forward, and just that presence and being around has been phenomenal. I think he's definitely going to be a big influence. And a massive support for the final on Sunday, definitely.
So if we're to do predictions, boys, before we move on to a little bit of Liverpool stuff, I'll come to you first, Gav. Looking ahead to Sunday, I've been delightfully told by my missus we're meant to be going camping this weekend, so I'm going to be on British Bay. Hopefully trying to find a pub nearby where I can watch the match on Sunday without an England shirt on, without cheering, and just keeping my head down with a pint of Guinness. If you were to make a prediction now going into that game, who would you be going for?
Well, in the Daytrippers sweep, I got Italy. So I want them to win. But I think Italy edge it in 90 minutes. I can't see it going to extra time and penalties. I think Italy won't waver regardless of what happens. If England were to go 1-0 up in 10 minutes, Italy won't panic. They just don't have it in them to panic. They'll just play their game. And, they believe in them, so they'll get chances. They've been more expansive than you would expect from an Italian side in the tournament in this one, for me. And I think it's really, it's been really good to see from Italy. I think they're so good defensively. But we talk about England's defence, but Italy are so good. And when the pressure comes on, Italy can handle it. They really can. You've seen it there yesterday. Spain equalised late, and Italy, they don't panic. They just play and play and play. And if it goes to penalty, it goes to penalties. And then that last penalty was just ridiculous. Like to get through to a final, and he's going on as if he's tapping a past his 4-year-old kid who's standing in goal. It was madness. Whereas if it was me, I'd be putting everything I had behind it. Everything. But I think, as I said before, it doesn't bother me who wins the tournament. It's been a good tournament from what I've seen of it. But I think Italy, just the way England are looking to play, I think it suits Italy. Don't panic if England sit back and try to hit them on the break. Italy be happy with that. I would 2-1 Italy in 90 minutes.
What about you, Phil?
Yeah, I'd agree. I think I wouldn't be surprised if Italy shut England out as well. Actually, maybe 1-0 in the 90 minutes. We saw last night they kind of reverted back to the Italy we're used to seeing, where they had to sit in and dig deep, but that's only because Spain just owned the ball. Spain will do that to anyone. Italy knew that was going to be the case, but Italy will fancy having a crack at England because that's what they've done for this tournament. Apart from maybe 20 minutes against Belgium, when Belgium were pushing for an equaliser in the quarterfinals, Italy have played on the front foot. They've got their goal. They've gone after a second goal. They've gone after a third goal. Slight concern over Immobile. His form hasn't been great. I thought he was poor against Belgium, just taking shots on when they weren't there, when there was simple pass, and keeps getting caught offside. So there's a decision to make there for Mancini. Does he stick with him and Immobile repays him in the final and scores the winning goal, and then Mancini thinks I was right to stick with him? Or does he bring in someone like Belotti? But I think where one thing England did very well tonight was Harry Kane dropping into midfield and giving them an extra man, and Denmark didn't really know what to do. The back three didn't know whether to go with him, and that's something that he can. Obviously, Italy will go 4-3-3. England will probably go 4-2-3-1. So Kane in there will give them an extra midfielder in there, and his distribution is very good, and he's obviously got two pacey wingers to try and get in there. But look, I don't know whether it's growing up watching Italian football as we did in Ireland, because it was the only football we had on TV, but I've just always loved the Italian team, whether it's the shithousery that they try and close out a game or what we've seen in this tournament. The anthem, I'm dreading the anthem on Sunday because the England fans are going to boo it. An absolute disgrace. The best anthem at the Euros, and we probably won't hear it. I can't see past Italy, but hopefully it's a good one, because finals obviously sometimes cannot be that great. But if we got an early goal, especially if Italy score an early goal, we could have an absolute humdinger.
I'm glad you mentioned it, because one of my favourite things is football shithousery, and the Italians have excelled in it, haven't they? It's been beautiful to watch.
Absolutely. And they, do you know what? As I said, they showed throughout the tournament that they have a bit more style about them, but they can always throw in the El shithousery towards the end just to see the game out. And I have no problem with that. It's very frustrating when you're playing against it, but that's just the way the Italians do it.
Special mention to Martinez last night in the Copa America, who excelled in some shithousery as Yerry Mina was about to take a penalty. So I tip my hat to him as well.
Go with them all.
It's
He had to go with them all. Did you see the video? He's just literally abusing the whole Colombian side. Didn't care. It was great.
Yeah, it was great. I feel like he'd fit in well in the Trippers, because that's pretty much all we do, pretty much constantly in our WhatsApp group every single day.
Yeah, I'd love to see a penalty shootout between all of us just to see what's going on. Don't even record, just record the audio. Never mind the video.
Yeah, exactly. Dave, what's your prediction?
Yeah, listen, like the fellas just said, Jay, I've fancied Italy from day one. I think to see Mancini doing so well, when he left Man City, I know there was a little trepidation about his style of play and the way he conducted himself at times. But for me, I think he's been outstanding. We're talking about style. I love seeing him stood on the sideline.
He's far too smooth. Far too smooth.
He's too, unbelievable. But again, when you've got someone like Chiellini, we're talking about Henderson, Chiellini at the back, he's just colossal. The big loss has been Spinazzola. I think he's been one of the finds of the tournament, and you could see that last night. I felt his energy and his desire to get forward and deliver them from wide areas. I think that was missing. Take somebody like that out the team, and it does leave a little bit of a hole. But again, they're dogged, they're resilient. They won't fear England. They'll have watched that game tonight, and they will not fear playing in England. And I feel that they've more than enough in their squad, especially playing that 4-3-3 formation. So for me, even though I'm from Liverpool and I'm married to an Irish woman, would it be nice to see England win? Yeah, it would. But I'm going to stick with me choice that I made before the tournament, and I fancy it to win it 1-0.
Okay, so not many people voting for England. Go on, I'll say England. I'll say England to break the mold. Key for me will be runners in behind. If England can try to play a little bit more expansive and get runners in behind. Special mention for Sterling tonight, by the way, who coming into the tournament certainly wasn't in his best form. But even right until the death, he's looking to penetrate. He's looking to knock the ball past, break lines, brave in his running. If as Phil rightly says, I think Kane is so dangerous now when he picks up those smart pockets and he drops off into the hole. If he can get turning and playing balls through for the pacey players to get in behind, I think England have got a chance. So I'm going to say a 1-0 win to England, and I'll have a lot more grey hairs and not many nails left. So that's my prediction. So I'm going to move on to Liverpool. I want to finish off with a little bit of Liverpool stuff, because it wouldn't be a week in football without more players being linked to Liverpool. But one that doesn't seem to be going away is Renato Sanchez. Gav, thoughts on him potentially being the player to replace Gini Wijnaldum?
I don't know if there's anything in this, Jamie. I'm being honest with you. His name has never come up, and all of a sudden he's a decent Euros, and Liverpool are all over him and making bids. Liverpool don't work like that. If Renato Sanchez is Liverpool bound, it was before the Euros. He kicked the ball in the Euros, because Liverpool aren't silly. If they're going in there, Lealy's with, isn't he? And they've some financial issues, I think, with regards to needing to sell some players. Liverpool would have had something in place for him, because they're not going to risk going into the Euros and him having a storm in Euros and then coming back and going, listen, the price has gone up 20 million or 25 million. They just don't work like that. They're so frugal with their money, it doesn't make any sense. There's a lot of names being thrown around. I think it's just a case of names being thrown for the sake of it and see what sticks. I said it to the lads the other day. I think two more players will arrive at Liverpool. Two proper first-team squad players will arrive at Liverpool in the summer. And I think they're probably already done. I genuinely believe that the way Liverpool work, they're not going to sit and watch the Euros and go, oh, he's good, isn't he? Do you know who Renato Sanchez is? His injury record or his lack of games would concern me. I don't think he had a massive amount of games for Lille last season. People will point to his spell at Swansea, wasn't it? He was only a kid. He came to Bayern Munich too early. He took that massive leap way too early and got caught up in a mega club very, very early. I don't know. I think a midfielder will come in, but there's no way Jurgen Klopp's on a beach smoking. You know what I mean? He's not watching Renato Sanchez and going, oh, I never heard of him. They know everyone. They know everyone. They know how much they're worth. They're onto their agents. I think two will come in. I think they're already done, and I don't think it'll be Renato Sanchez. But I could be completely wrong. If it is, though, it's done weeks ago. It's done absolutely weeks ago, in my opinion.
Phil, there seems to be a little bit of unrest in the chat, but just generally amongst Liverpool fans, they're getting a little bit twitchy. You can see the types of signings that other clubs are making. The likes of a Jadon Sancho has gone to Manchester United. For me personally,
but that's it.
But this is the thing, though, Gav. For me, that's never a Liverpool type signing. I think he's on 300 grand a week, Sancho. Like, Liverpool are not going to fundamentally change how they operate, how they do business. I think that would make him Liverpool's top earner. It's never going to happen. surely, like Gav says, Liverpool have got their deals done and dusted in the background. This isn't something that's done reactively. Liverpool have been proactive now for a number of years. Where do you sit on this? Are you a relaxed Liverpool fan at this stage? Where's your head at with it all?
Yeah, I think have to be relaxed because there's a major tournament going on, and like the Sancho deal is agreed in principle, but it hasn't been signed yet because he's still at the Euros. So I think wait till next week and things will ramp up a bit. And there's always players being linked with Liverpool. There's players being linked. People like Liverpool fans can get a little sweating on things when they see other clubs being linked with really top players. You know, you see Chelsea being linked to Haaland, but you think Dortmund are going to sell Sancho and Haaland in the same summer? There's no way that's happening. Maybe Haaland eventually plays for Chelsea, but no, I would say Jurgen Klopp needed some time off, as did several of the Liverpool players. They're back training, and I'd say watch with interest now over the next few weeks. But yeah, look, the deals they'll have had an eye. The Sanchez one, I think his form for Lille was good enough before the Euros to warrant interest from several clubs around Europe. And Lille, as good as they were to win the league, very much like Monaco a few years ago, they're going to be absolutely decimated because obviously the money in the French league is nowhere near as big as it is in other leagues. So they're going to have to sell their players, and Sanchez would be one of the players that get rid of. I think obviously we know the Kanate deal is done. He's got his number 5 jersey. He seems very happy about that.
Oh, what a legend, by the way. Can we just have a quick word on that? Because I don't even think the club had actually announced he'd been number 5. I think he just went rogue and celebrated it with all his pals back home. What a legend.
Yeah, that's how you become a fan favorite before you even kick a ball. But look, he's young, and obviously Liverpool needed a centre half. So I think Gav was right, like 2 players at least, and you would imagine you're probably thinking centre midfield and another attacker. And players are going to be leaving as well. You see players being linked with moves away, and yeah, there'll be a few out and at least 2 in. But yeah, I wouldn't be getting too concerned, because also as well, you're looking at the players that have to come back that missed all of last season. And I don't want to use the cliche like they're like new signings, but you're watching Laporte last night for Spain, watch Diaz at the Euros with Portugal. These were players that were talked about being in the same caliber as Virgil van Dijk. Absolutely not a chance. So Van Dijk comes in and just makes Liverpool the team that they were, and you just need to add a few players to that. And I think Liverpool fans have plenty to be optimistic about, considering how bad last season went and still finished 3rd.
Can I, Jamie, like, and I've said it for a couple of weeks, and I keep saying it until the 31st of August or whenever the window closes. Like, people are going on about throwing the Sancho stuff in the air, right? In the air. 350 grand a week, but the Sancho deal's going on about, it's like United are telling you it's imminent for about fucking 12 months. You know, the sort of way. And the only stumbling block to that deal, was United wouldn't pay what Dortmund wanted. He would have been a United player last summer if he paid up what he wanted, and he wouldn't. And now they've got it for what he offered last summer, but it's a year further down on his contract. But we're still sitting here, like, Leicester have made a couple of signings, new coming into the league. You don't know what they're going to be like, but nobody else has done anything. Nobody else has done. You see United being linked with Varane and Camavinga, and like Phil said, Chelsea with Haaland and whoever else, because people just feel that Chelsea, or like Abramovich, is interested in football again. He's just going to throw money everywhere. But we're still sitting here, and we've signed a centre back, and United have signed a winger, and everybody else has done nothing. You know, so I think it's just a case of the nervousness, or what will FSG spend. We just have to wait. We just have to wait and see. But there's no way for me that Liverpool haven't got deals 90% there before that Euros even kicked off. And it's just a case of getting them closed now, and everything stops for the Euros, literally everything.
Dave, off the back of what Phil was saying, do you share the sentiments that, with the return in players, that fixes a lot of Liverpool's issues, and it is only fine tuning rather than major surgery that's needed?
Yeah, they definitely need surgery. I mentioned the team there, Leicester City. I think there's a perfect player at Leicester in Tielemans that would come into Liverpool and offer a lot more than what Jez fellow, and that's disrespect to him. I've just watched Tielemans a lot, and I think if you're going to spend big money, you need somebody that's going to be a ready-made, could step the first team along the Henderson. Even Basuma will be another player that has got energy. You've got to look at the way Liverpool play, the style of play that Klopp plays at Liverpool, and pressure and pressing on the front, trying to get at teams and win the ball high up the field. They'd be the type of players that I could see maybe going into Liverpool and not come bench and actually start from the beginning. But just coming back will always give you the boost as well. And I definitely don't think major surgery is needed. 1 or 2 big signings at every club. Always look for that little bit of before the season starts, and the old transfer window does give people a little bit of nerves when teams don't, they're not bringing anyone in and what's happening, who we getting. But definitely, you're going to see a different Liverpool season. It was a strange year all around, but not major surgery whatsoever.
Phil, one thing to finish on that I was delighted to see get released is that the Premier League expect to have full stadiums again next season. Liverpool, more than most, did not miss their fans, and I think the manager, I think he's been on record saying it a number of times how he missed that connection with the fans. That's one hell of a boost for Liverpool to have not only the returning players that we missed for the lion's share of last season, but also to have our 12 man in the supporters back in the stadium. It'll give the lads some lift.
Big time, yeah. Sure, we've seen the impact fans have had at the Euros, and I've said it last week as well. We tried to convince ourselves at times last season when there was no fans at games that football was back and it was great. But it was a different version of football. You can't tell me that if you're playing in an empty stadium and you make a mistake and there's no one on your back that it doesn't. It certainly wouldn't be as big a deal. Whereas if you make a few mistakes early in a game and the crowd is on you, that's going to affect you and that's going to have an impact on you. And we know it's no coincidence Liverpool's brilliant home record went to absolute bits this season, obviously through injuries, but no home crowd there as well. And look, there's a few people there, I'm sure will say, sure, it's the same for everyone. But I think what Liverpool have created under Klopp at Anfield has been so crucial to their success, and that home form where it's a fortress and nobody wins in the Premier League at Anfield until the season just gone when there was no one there. Playing in empty stadiums it was a case of just getting the show back on the road. But if the way I felt after the season finished was, if you're going to have a bad season, last season was it to do it, because it didn't really matter.
Yeah, finished 5 points off second place.
Yeah,
and they just took half the team in October and said, "Here, you take the rest of the season off," and they still finished 5 points off second place. Like people go on as if Liverpool are finished, and I keep going back to it. Like, if you take X amount of players out of any of those sides, and City included, like City have a ridiculously big, talented squad, but I think if you take 4 or 5 out, they'd struggle. It's not just a case of, they have more players to come in. It's all about the rhythm, and it's all about the mechanics that make it. Like when you have Anfield full, Liverpool go 1-0 down against the Brighton, the crowd go fucking mad, and next thing you know, Liverpool are battering them, and they get one back, and then they get another one, and then everything's rosy in the garden again. It's just so, and feels right. Last season to be off the boil, or for that sort of stuff to happen to you last season, was probably it, because while Liverpool, I think, suffered because of the injuries, and they definitely suffered without fans being in the ground, but I think when we look at next season and the players that come back, we might look back and say, you know what, it wasn't great having no fans in the stadium, but maybe it was a little bit of help, because if those fans were in the stadium, I'm not saying we'd lose 6 in a row, but we could have lost 4 in a row, and you could have turned on. Fans can turn on players, Liverpool fans included. Everyone can turn on fans or on players. So I think maybe that was a little bit of a blessing as well, because you were going through a bad bit of form and there was no one there to see it, in person, and let's get rid of that and we move on. But like, if you think Liverpool are finished, you're mental. Like, I'm being honest with you, they're the best side in England, and I'll challenge anyone to talk me out of that. They're the best side in England, and I think if Klopp adds what we think he should add, well, I'm not saying we should ring him and say, listen, you should do this or you'll fail, but I think everyone out there thinks the centre half, a centre midfielder, and an attacking player. I think if he adds right in those 3 areas, I think Liverpool are the team to beat next season. There's no doubt about that.
It's been said to death, right? But if you look at the personnel that was missing, Van Dijk and a Gomez, for example, they fundamentally changed the way that we play because of their recovery pace and Van Dijk's ability to change defense into attack so quickly, whether it's a diagonal ball to basically isolate a fullback and get Mane and Salah running at them. That was completely and utterly removed from Liverpool this year. And if you think of the likes of a Konate coming in, who is absolutely rapid, a brick shithouse. So whether it's himself or Gomez that are going to be playing alongside Van Dijk, that transforms Liverpool again. It allows them to play a ridiculously high line, condense the pitch, shorten the gaps between the defence and attack, and ultimately get our attackers in positions where they can isolate defenders again. We had to play so deep sometimes to cover for the lack of pace that we had at the back. You ultimately then had fullbacks that sat in closer. Because the fullbacks didn't overlap, it meant that Salah, rather than being an inside forward, was a traditional winger trying to go on the outside, which he didn't really want to do. So it just fundamentally changed the structure of Liverpool's team. And I know Gav, that I'm one of the most optimistic Liverpool fans that there is, but I genuinely think Liverpool are better than Manchester City. Player for player, if you go best 11 versus best 11, and Liverpool will have the bit between their teeth. So even at looking at the current squad, having those players and a Konate, I think Liverpool would be immeasurably better. And if you sprinkle on one or two players, that will make a massive, massive difference to Liverpool next season. Just cognizant of time, lads, because we're now coming up to 11:45. We obviously started a little bit late. Before we wrap up, Gav, do you want to tell us a little bit about your fantastic idea for the Sienna Steps course? It's starting to pick up a little bit of traction. Just want to give that a shout out if you can.
Right, so most people in the chat will know what this is about, but if you're in there and you don't, so Sienna is a 3-year-old girl that suffers from a form of cerebral palsy. She needs 120,000 euros to go to St. Louis in America to have life-changing treatment, which will allow her to walk properly. So at the moment she's on it's a walker, right? So she puts her hands on the walker and it helps her walk. She hasn't got the strength in her legs. She needs 120k in order to get to St. Louis for this. So at the moment, there's a GoFundMe that's going, and I think that's at probably 45,000-ish. And we're just trying to help out as much as we can. So we're constantly pushing it. It's in the show description. You will see the link to this latest thing we're doing. So we're virtually selling out Anfield. Okay, so there's 53,394 official seats at Anfield, and we're going to fill for €1 each. Now, there is costs involved because when you do a transaction, the banks and stuff charge it. But we're hoping that out of 53,000, we're hoping to earn somewhere between 35 and 40, probably a bit more than that. But it all depends on the charges we get from PayPal and credit card companies and stuff like that. But basically, what we're looking to do is we have on our website 53,394 tickets, and when you buy one, it drops and drops and drops until we get to zero. If we get to zero and we earn somewhere north of 40,000 over, that'll bring her up close to 90, nearly 100,000, and will not be far off. She'd probably be about 10% away from being able to go. Our goal is Sienna starts big school, as they call it, not this September, the following September. So our goal is to get her this money, get her to America, get her treatment, and as our mother always tells us, she just wants to see her daughter walk through the school gates like all her other kids have walked through the school gates. So I'm not making any apologies for it. We're going to just keep talking about it, and we're going to keep mentioning it, and we're going to keep annoying people. And I'm just tagging everyone I can think of in the world on Twitter, and they will hate me by the end of it, but I don't really fucking care, to be honest with you. So I'll end up being hated by most of the world, but if that 120 grand comes in, I'm absolutely fine with that. No problem. So show description, if you look in there, it's our pinned tweet, and you literally click on it, you go in, you can pick the amount of tickets you want. You can buy one, you can buy two, you can buy the cop, I don't care. And you just pay our money, it comes to us, it gets sent into our bank account, and every week we get a payment, and that payment is then forwarded on to Sienna. So the goal is 120,000, and we will not stop until we get to it.
Top man, what a way to finish. Right, with that, a big thank you to Gav, Phil and Dave for your time. As always, a big thank you to everybody in the comments. There's been lots coming through. If you can, just before you leave us, make sure you like the video and leave a comment under the video itself. Let us know your thoughts on the game, the show. Any feedback, good or bad, is always welcome. Gav, before we go, one more thing from you.
Again?
You've been you've been a very busy man this week. Well, every week. I've seen a bit of a glimpse for some of the stuff that's coming for next season, and us leveling up the shows. What can people expect from the Trippers next season? Because it's shaping up to be pretty good.
More shows. I think we probably do 5 to 6 a week. I think it's going to go to about between 9 and 11 a week. New software, so the look that you're looking at now will look completely different, more informative for people watching. There'll be a lot more on the screen. There'll be a lot more for people as they're watching to see. So when we're talking about certain stuff, we'll be able to put it on screen and show them. New people joining the crew from the start of next season. But we're working on it. We're nearly there. It's the 7th or 8th of July now. And we're hoping by in the next 2 weeks we'll be able to announce exactly what we're doing for next season. But there's new people coming in. There's new shows. There's more shows. There's new ways to see everything on YouTube. And yeah, it's going to be mad. But we'll have a go.
Good stuff. Right. With that, I hope you've all enjoyed the show. Make sure you enjoy the remainder of your week, and we will be back with you again next Wednesday on the Midweek Fix. All the best.